In this video, we're going to be learning about Excel functions and how we can use them. We'll be doing this by using a real-world example dataset. We're going to have two sections for this video. One where we go through the basic functions and then another one where we'll go through more advanced functions. We're also going to have two separate datasets. One which is the hockey dataset on screen, and that will be for the more basic functions, and then we're going to move over to a food sales dataset which is going to be for the more advanced functions. Now we are going to be going through the basic functions section. In this section we're going to go through basic functions such as sorting, average, min, max, frequency, and then using the graph. Before we get into these questions, we're going to go through each function and what they do. The sorting function, that rearranges the data to help us find the values quicker. The average function, calculates the average of the selected range. The average ifs function, calculates the average of the selected range if it meets a certain requirement. The minimum value, which finds the minimum value of the selected range, and then the maximum value, which finds the maximum value of that range. And then the frequency, this calculates the number of times the variable is repeated. And then finally, the pie chart, that is going to be our graph that we're going to use, and we're going to use that to help show the percentages of each data. Questions. And we're going to be going through those functions we just used and use them in a real example. So going to the first question, sorting the data by team, country, last name and first name. So here we're going to have to select the data we want to go. So go to team and then selecting all the data. Then we're going to go to the sort and filter using our custom sort. Here we're going to choose team. So we're going to see the question. Team, we're going to have it because we want to see the women above the men. We'll go from Z to A. Then we're going to add one where we can see country. Then we're going to go values, leave it like that. Same thing for the next one. We're going to go last name first, and then we're going to go to the first name. We're going to leave these three A to Z because we wanted to sort in alphabetical order. Now, it's going to look like this. We're going to have the women first from Canada, and then USA. Then we're going to have last name, and then we're going back to first name. Now we're going to move on to question 2. Calculating the average age, height and weight of everyone. Here I've already completed the average age, where all we have to do is the average age. In the range we put, I'm going to redo this, we put L4. On a Mac I press Command Shift down, and that will select all the data range that I want to use. In the average height section, we're going to do something similar. We're going to type the equal sign, type the word average to open our function, and then we're going to find where the height is. We're going to use this height over here in feet. Do the same thing, Command Shift down to select all our data range. As we can see, it's data range from M4 to M99. Then we press enter and then it will work. Now we're going to do the same thing again for the average weight. We're going to go to the equal sign, find where the weight is. Actually, we're going to type the average first. Type the average, find where the weight is. Click that, same thing, Command Shift down. So we're using all data sets. Now that gives us our 3 values for our average. Now we're going to go on to the average ifs function. This function is a bit more complicated because we're trying to search into the data as well. So here we've got the average ifs function. Same thing, we select what we want. As we want to find the age, we're going to select column L, L4 and L99. That's going to use all our age columns. Then we're going to add the criteria of this column here, column B4 to B99, because that is where our team name is. And then we're going to type the word men in, or in this position you can go to where the men is and click on it and have that as the cell, and then you press enter and then it will give you the average age for them. Now we're going to add one more step to this. We're going to go here and then press F4 to lock that cell in. Then after this, here, once it's locked in, we can drag it down. I'm going to lock it in. Then we're going to drag it down to this cell here. So once we drag it down, that locks it in. Those values won't change. However, here we're going to have to change the B51 to either woman or the cell that it's representative. And then there we'll get the average age of the women. Now we're going to do the average BMI. So we go equals average, and we're going to select column 04, same thing, selecting all of the data down to the bottom and then pressing enter, and then that'll give us our average. Now we're going to move to the BMI. So we're going to have to find this minimum BMI value. What we're going to do is equals MIN for our minimum value. Same thing, selecting the data range again. Then that will give us that value. Our maximum value, which will be equals max. Going to here again and selecting all the data. Make sure when we're selecting, we're not doing the header name because that will give us errors. Now to calculate the range, it's not really a function. All you have to do is equals the maximum minus the minimum. That's just so we can see what the range is. Now we're going to move on to question 5, which is the frequency of each position. Here I've completed the forwards, but we're going to use that function, go through it, and then complete it for the defense and goalies. So here we've got the data set as player data in this area, position, player data as that's our workbook name, and then we're going to go K because that is our file, K all the way down from 4 to 99. And then this second one is because we want it forward. You don't have to have that, you can type it as that if you want. And then that will give us the answer. So we're going to repeat this for the next one. We're going to drag it down for both of them. Then here we're going to change that to defense. Again, you can either do defense or you can click on the cell that does that. And then we'll do for goalie, we'll click on the cell and we find a goalie here, so we're going to do that. Then we got 55, 29 and 12. Now we're going to do our pie chart, but before we get into the pie chart, we're going to have to calculate the COUNTIF function of each one. So we're going to have a COUNTIF function where it calculates if it's a woman and if it's what team it is, if it's in the women's team and the men's team, and if it's in the country of Canada or USA. So that's this function here. So we're going to do the same thing, copy it down to these ones, and then it'll give us the answer. Except we're going to have to change a couple values in this because we don't want to always do the women for Canada. So we leave that. We're going to change in this one, in the Canada men, we're going to change B6 to men because we want to find the men's value. And then in the USA, we're going to have to change C6 to USA. And as well, we're going to have to change this B7 value to make it men instead. Otherwise, we're going to be finding the same values. Same thing here, men. And C7 should be USA. There. So now, once we've got all our data, what we can do is highlight the data, move to this insert area, click on the pie chart, click on, we're going to do a 2D pie chart, and now we'll give it to us here. And we're going to have a lot of different sections we can use. I'm going to choose to use this style because it gives us the percentage, it looks a bit different and it looks nice, and then it gives us our legend there. And then we're going to name the chart team per country. Then once we name it, we're finished for our question. Now we're going to be moving on to the advanced function section. In this section, we're going to be looking at two main functions, conditional format and pivot tables. Have a look at the question on the screen and then we'll get right into the question. And we're going to be using this sample data food sales data set we've got. Question 1, using two different types of conditional formatting on two different variables. First variable we're going to choose is unit price. So we're going to select all the data, we're going to go to conditional formatting, color scales, and then this one here. What this is going to do is the high data about 3.49, going to make it dark green, and our low data where we can see 1.35, making it dark red. So Excel, it finds the data, calculates the averages and everything, and then it makes the high numbers darker and the lower numbers darker red. Now we're going to go to variable 2, which is going to be total price. So same thing, select all the data like we learned in part 1. We're going to go back to the top, conditional formatting, top and bottom rules, top 10%. We're going to change it to top 25 and leave it as top, change this to green, so that green is our higher number. Then we're going to have to repeat that, conditional formatting, top and bottom rules. We're going to click bottom 10%, we're going to change that to 25 and leave that as red and make sure that's bottom there. Then we're going to click OK and the bottom number. So what this one does is calculate the top 25% of the total price, puts that in red, the top 25% in green, the bottom 25% in red, and the rest will stay as grey because that's what the cell was before. Now for question 2, we're going to sort the data into total price in ascending order. So here we're going to have to select all the data, or we can just select the whole column I, go to sort, and we're going to click that there, continue with the current selection. What this is going to do is put all the red numbers up at the top because our red is our lowest, and then when we get to the 25% mark, it will go grey, and our green will be there. So this allows us to see our bottom total price compared to the unit price. Actually, we're going to have to do it for this whole thing, selecting all the data, going to the sorting field, custom sort, total price, smallest to largest. Therefore, all the other variables change. So now you can also do it the other way if you would like, or the question asks for descending order. Select all the data, go to sort and filter, and then just do it the other way around. We're going to have to go into it though, so custom sort, we go into total price, and then we go largest to smallest. Then once it loads, as mine is very slow, it will go green at the top and red at the bottom. So once it loads, it would eventually have green at the top, red at the bottom. We might click it one more time just to make sure it works. So largest, wrong, and make sure you select all the data, custom sort, that's just a little error. Just make sure you continue with the current selection unless you want to expand it. Total price, largest to smallest, okay, and then that would work. Once it all loads, it fully fixes it. Mine was just a little bit slow there. Now we're going to go add everything into a pivot table. A pivot table changes the way we can look at it and does sums like this for ourselves. So we select every single piece of data, then we go into insert pivot table here. You can do it on a new worksheet. We're going to do it on an existing one here. We're going to put it in this cell here, and then our table range is all that data we selected. So all that data. Press OK, that opens up, and we're going to select certain items. So we're going to put the region here as well as the city. We're going to put our quantity here, unit price here, product here, and total price here. We're also going to put our category into here. Doing this allows us to move the variables and have a look at different things. So for example, I've got my values in the column. In the rows, which are these ones here, we've got our region, which is our east and west, cities, Boston, New York, LA, and San Diego, then each category within each city. Over here, we've got the values that we put in here. So we've got the product value, the product count, the sum of the quantity, the sum of the unit price, and the sum of the total price. This just breaks down everything and gives us a grand total in each aspect. So this allows us to view the data in different ways, and you can add all these other variables to change it. So you might want to look at it by the date first. So you can go each year, you can go each quarter, however you want to like, you can change it how much you want. You can filter it as well, so you might want to put the city here, or you might want to see product here. You want to only go product, and you only want to see a banana. So you click banana, and then it shows you banana for all of these. You can do that for everything. So you'd be able to change it as well, put city, and you can only see certain cities. Now that finishes for our questions. If I went too fast at all, have a look, go back, and then pause it when you feel, and then have an understanding of it again. Thank you for paying attention and listening to my video.